Tony Stark is still alive. I'm calling it. He's going to be in Avengers Doomsday next year. I bet you guys are thinking, what are you talking about, dude? He used all 6 Infinity Stones and he snapped. He can't withstand that power. Hear me out. Did he use the full power of the Infinity Stones? Did he bring back half of the universe? Did he wipe out half of the universe like Hulk or Thanos? I don't think so. He only used the stones to wipe out Thanos' army. But wait, did you see how he was at the end of the movie? He couldn't even speak. He had a scar on his face. What are you talking about? We saw him die. Is that what we really saw, guys? Guys, in this video, I'm going to talk about why Tony Stark is still alive and he is going to be in Avengers Doomsday. And here's my big theory about this. This movie, Avengers Doomsday, is not going to be about introducing a new villain, aka Doctor Doom. In this movie is going to be showing an existing hero that we know of and his transformation into villainhood. And actually, I think that's much more of an exciting selling point of this movie. Would you rather see a brand new villain that we literally have had no build up from the previous movies in phase 4 and 5 and just introduce this brand new villain that we really don't know anything about?
Who the fuck is that guy?
Wouldn't it be better if we had an existing hero go from hero to zero? You guys might be thinking, oh, I don't want to see a hero be tarnished and turned into a villain. That is not Tony Stark. But let me ask you guys this. Hasn't Tony Stark shown some sides of him that can act very erratically and emotionally? Wink, wink. Have you seen the movie Civil War? Guys, this is going to be the first video in this new series I'm going to be calling the Doomsday Files. We have Avengers Doomsday coming out next year in December, and I think it'd be really cool to make a series about the Avengers Doomsday movie that's going to be coming out next year. We have about 12 months from now, and this series is going to be all about talking about leaks, theories, things that the Russo brothers have said, other theories online that other commentators online have talked about, and essentially just having a big discussion about what the movie could potentially be about, theories, leaks, and such forth. So yeah, this is going to be episode 1 in the Doomsday Files. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is how the heck are they going to justify that he's still alive? Yes, he had all 6 of the Infinity Stones in his gauntlet, but remember, he didn't use all 6 Infinity Stones to wipe out half the universe or bring back like Hulk and Thanos. So that's the first point. And secondly, remember, he's the one who designed the new Infinity Gauntlet. And remember, guys, his armor is Stark technology as well. So I think there's actually a little bit of resistance there. So when he snapped, not only was he not using the full power of the 6 Infinity Stones, but also because he had the armor, provided a little bit of resistance to the stones. And remember, Tony Stark built the gauntlet, so he understood what the 6 stones were capable of. Of course, it was going to damage him quite a bit, but I think he's still alive because of these two facts. So I know you guys are thinking, okay, fine, he's back alive. But why haven't we been seeing him? What has he been doing all this time in phases 4 and 5? And I think that's actually kind of the secret in what's going to be shown in Avengers Doomsday. Avengers Doomsday is going to be a Doctor Doom-centric movie, right? Like I said, it's not going to be about introducing a new character. It's going to be about Tony Stark's journey from Tony Stark Iron Man all the way to villainhood Doctor Doom. Now, I think I want to establish one thing. Tony Stark was essentially the guy who invented time travel. And you know what's a cool parallel about this? In the comics, who's the person who invented time travel? Doctor Doom. So I think there's actually kind of a cool parallel there. In the movie, in the MCU, Tony Stark is the one that invents time travel. And in the comics, Doctor Doom is the one that is first seen using time travel. So I think that's actually a pretty cool parallel of why they're actually kind of the same person. I think that's what the Russos kind of want to do. Instead of inventing and showing a new character, we're going to show that Tony Stark essentially is Doctor Doom. Now remember, guys, Tony Stark was the one who invented time travel, as I recently just said. I mean, he essentially kind of knows about the multiverse, right? He's the one who was kind of explaining all the ideas of time travel, the time compass, and all that. So Tony Stark knows about the multiverse. So what I think happened was when Tony Stark had all 6 of the stones in his hand at the end of Endgame, you know, in that moment, he was the strongest being in the entire universe, right? I think in that moment, he somehow used maybe the reality stone and kind of camouflaged himself, camouflaged his death, kind of like what Thanos did with the reality stone. I think he camouflaged himself and hid himself away, and then eventually he made contact with Doctor Strange and Wong. Now here's the cool part of this theory. I think Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, and Wong have been communicating throughout a lot of phase 4 and 5, but it just hasn't been shown on camera. And it hasn't been shown in the movies. And here's the reason why. Remember, guys, Doctor Doom is not just a master of science, but also is a master of the arcane arts and sorcery. And Doctor Strange actually kind of already knows it. Remember, guys, he saw the 1 in 14,605 possibilities. He knows the outcome of this reality. I think he already knew that Tony Stark will still be alive. So I think what happened was that Tony Stark revealed it to Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange already knew it. And Tony Stark is like, hey, Doctor Strange, there's this multiverse out there. We need to discuss about it. I think there's a possibility of incursions happening. How do we prevent that? And over time, Tony Stark starts mastering sorcery and arcane arts. He starts mastering sorcery from Doctor Strange and becomes on par with Doctor Strange on his level of sorcery. And I know you guys were gonna say, like, okay, all this happened, but why haven't they shown it? This makes no sense in the sense of the timeline. The Russos have said that Doomsday is going to be a direct sequel to the Endgame. And also, there's this very, very important spell that was introduced by Doctor Strange in a movie called Spider-Man No Way Home. And what is that spell? It's the memory wipe spell. I think all of these interactions with Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, and Wong that I have described that hasn't been shown happened, but Tony Stark and Doctor Strange got into a big fight about some disagreement how to handle the multiverse. As shown before, they have gotten into arguments, and Doctor Strange beat Doctor Strange in a battle of sorcery and cast the memory wipe spell to completely wipe out Doctor Strange's and Wong's memory of them. So now that nobody really knows that Tony Stark is still alive. What's interesting about this theory is that if you watch Spider-Man No Way Home, when Peter Parker first goes into the Sanctum Sanctorum to meet Doctor Strange, what do we see? We see a bunch of ice in the temple. Where did that ice come from? And when Doctor Strange introduces the idea of this memory spell, Wong's first reaction is, don't cast that spell. So it seems like there's already some history about this spell that they both know about, but they can't recall. Here's what I think that's going to happen, and it's going to be shown in Avengers Doomsday, is that Doctor Strange and Tony Stark get into an argument about how to handle the multiverse. Tony Stark defeats Doctor Strange in a battle of sorcery, wipes their memory, and then casts a teleportation spell to a very snowy region on another part of the world. And that's how all the snow is brought into the temple. And that place is Latveria. So now Tony Stark, so everybody right now, including Doctor Strange and Wong, believe that he's completely dead because he wiped their memory, and he's in Latveria building up his technology and his suit and his sorcery abilities in Latveria. One really cool thing about this theory is that it kind of in some way fixes the problems of Marvel Phases 4 and 5, because up until Infinity War and Endgame, a lot of the movies in Marvel Phases 1 to 3 kind of tied in directly into Infinity War, right? Infinity War was all about Thanos collecting these Infinity Stones to use to wipe out half of the universe, and a lot of the movies individually on their own incorporated the stones, right? Power Stone for Guardians of the Galaxy, Reality Stone for Thor, Space Stone for Avengers, as well as Captain America, Mind Stone for Vision. The idea of tying in the Infinity Stones from phases 1 to 3 and building up all the way to the Infinity War and Endgame was actually pretty cool. And yeah, that's currently a problem in Marvel Phases 4 and 5, right? Like, how do they exactly tie it directly into Doomsday? I mean, maybe the only thing they have right now is incursions and the concept of the multiverse, but we really don't have that same build-up because of the quality of movies, as well as just the build-up and excitement we have for Doomsday. So I think this is actually a really cool way of tying back into Marvel Phases 4 and 5. The fact that Tony Stark's still alive, he's been there, and he's kind of already been tampering with the multiverse, and it's all been him this whole time. I think the next question you guys would ask is, why didn't Tony Stark, go and visit his daughter, Morgan Stark, or Pepper Potts' wife? I think there was a realization he had. Tony Stark can't give up, not trying to save the world. I think, of course, he wanted to, but he realized that the action he needed to take to protect his family was something that would be better if he worked on this alone. I think what actually happened is he started learning about the multiverse, and he started learning that this thing called incursions would happen, and universes would collide together. And he realized the only way to save his universe and to save his family would be to wipe out those universes. And of course, many heroes would not agree with that. So I think it would be better for him to stay hidden, working on this in silence under a pseudonym like Victor Von Doom, Doctor Doom, etc., rather than coming back to his daughter and his wife and work on this problem and share it with everybody. I think he understands that, and this is the sacrifice he's willing to make. He's like, hey, although I can go see my daughter and my wife, this is a bigger problem we need to work on, not just save my family, but our universe, and I'm willing to work on this in secret. So I think that's the reason why. I think this is the explanation of why he's staying hidden. And here is my favorite part of this explanation. How are they going to convince the audience that Tony Stark is going to go from good to evil? Now, check this out. You guys remember Civil War? If I asked you guys when you watch Civil War, is Tony Stark a bad person? What would you say? You'd say no. Like, okay, I understand he attacked Captain America and Bucky, and he had his reasons for why he did the things he did. But remember, he had quite an emotional response, a very reasonable crash out, right? He just figured out his parents died from Bucky, and Bucky's right in front of his face, right? Even though we know that, Bucky wasn't in control of his mind and what, that's a very reasonable reason to get very emotional and mad about this, right? So now, what needs to happen for us, the audience, to understand why Tony is going to become evil? I think Morgan Stark is going to die in this movie. Yes, his daughter. She was introduced in Endgame, and I think that was very important to establish. It was very important to establish how much Tony Stark cares about his daughter. I mean, come on, guys. We have this very famous phrase, "I love you 3000." And it's a very sweet little phrase said between Tony Stark and his daughter. I think what's going to happen is Tony Stark is going to reveal to everybody, Fantastic Four, the Thunderbolts, the new Avengers, and everybody. And like, hey, guys, this is the scenario. There's a bunch of universes colliding. We need to wipe out their universe. It's either us or them. We have to do it. Otherwise, our universe is going to be destroyed. And I'm sorry, we have to take care of our own. And he thinks about his daughter. And what essentially happens is, rightfully so, the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, like, this is BS. We got to protect our own. So I think they do end up fighting. But through this disagreement of what Tony Stark says and what they say, eventually I think what's going to happen is everybody is going to come to an agreement, like, there has to be another solution except for Tony Stark. And I think what's going to happen is that there's going to be for some reason, there's going to be some accident that happens in which Morgan Stark dies. Imagine this, guys. Imagine Tony Stark seeing the death of his daughter. I mean, imagine if you're Tony Stark and you see the death of your daughter, you're going to go berserk, right? I mean, like, everything you've done for the universe. Like, could you imagine? The way I envision it is a scene where all the heroes are around and they see Tony Stark like picking up his daughter in his hands, and he's like, and he looks back, he picks up his dead daughter in his hands, and he's like, he's emotional, he's lifeless, and he looks back at everybody. He's like, guys, he's like, look what I've done for you guys. Like,
that would affect the team.
That would end the team. Isn't that the mission? Isn't that the why we fight? So we can end the fight, so we get to go home?
I've literally sacrificed my life, my well-being for you guys, and you see his scar. And the scar, if this fits so well because of the scar, right? The scar represents a big symbol for Doctor Doom in the comics. But I think a cool way to twist it into the MCU is the fact that Tony Stark literally, basically almost gave up his life for the universe because of using the 6 stones to defeat Thanos' army, and that scar represents how much he's willing to give up. But this is a good way to kind of show us. This is the way I envision the scene. He's like, guys, I literally give up more and more and more, sacrifice my well-being. Now my daughter, and all you guys do is not listen. This is how you guys repay me. And I think Tony Stark, this is going to be his transition hood to evil. Could you imagine that? Imagine that. Like, I always think about this scene, and I think that'd be a great way for the audience to see it, because there's this famous thing from a Joker comic or a Batman comic, which is the only difference between a good man and a bad man is one bad day, right? And that's a pretty bad day for Tony Stark if he sees his daughter dying, right? So this idea is a good way to wrap up the idea I brought at the beginning of this video, right? I think it'd be much more interesting to see a hero transformation into a villain rather than introducing a brand new villain. I think that'd be a great way to tie in Marvel Phases 4 and 5 into this big Avengers epic, right? Like, that'd be really cool. So that's how I think they're going to do it. And the last point I do want to mention is that currently today, December 29, 2025, I'm seeing the first 3 teaser trailers of Avengers Doomsday. I think this theory holds true. There's this big theme of kids, right? You see Captain America's kid, Thor talking about his daughter Love, and now we have the X-Men and whatnot. Spoilers. But I think there's a big theme of kids, right? Thor trying to protect his daughter, Captain America with his kid, and Tony Stark with his daughter. And I think unfortunately the only kid that's going to die, which is sad, is going to be Tony Stark, and that's going to push him into villainhood. And I think that's the way they're going to do this. But hey guys, that is my theory of how I think they're going to do Avengers Doomsday. I actually posted a video about this about 9 months ago, and I was kind of a little shaky on the theory, but I thought the theory was quite a good and interesting theory. But as time progressed, I've seen some leaks and more plot details that we're not sure if they're real or not. Some of the things that the Russos have stated publicly, and I think this theory still holds quite well. I think this is very doable still with this movie coming out 1 year from now. So yeah, that's my theory. If you guys are interested in more content like this, I'm going to be doing a series called the Doomsday Files. This is episode 1. I'm going to continue doing this series up into the movie, which is a year away, because I'm quite excited for it. This series is going to be about strictly just talking about ideas, theories, commentary on trailers, leaks, plot details, etc. So if you guys are interested in that, please like, subscribe, comment if you guys are interested in more of this type of content. Yeah, this is just an opinion. Have a great day.